technology, like everyone's use of mobile devices, that provide us with information that ordinary North Koreans would use to become aware and part of the outside world. As they say, knowledge is power. But for real, with knowledge, those people could take their first seat on the board to freedom, then leading to the eventual overthrow of their enslavers, and all without the need for yet another war.
CNN Money reports Richardson described the trip as a private humanitarian mission. The delegation wasn't advocating just for internet usage, but asking the country to stop its missile launches and nuclear tests, and also negotiate the release of American Kenneth Bae, who is currently detained in North Korea.
Protesters in South Korea flew 30,000 leaflets via balloon to North Korea.
Two groups released 10 balloons laden with money and leaflets in Gimpo, South Korea today. One of the group's fighters for a free North Korea expect the balloons to catch the wind and land across the border into their cut-off communist neighbor.
South Korean civic groups filled large helium balloons with anti-Pyongyang leaflets before letting the wind
Hundreds of thousands of leaflets have been sent across the heavily armed border, many containing US dollars or Chinese yuan and North Korean cash.
We're sending these leaflets to deliver the actual facts and truth which I've learned while living in the Republic of Korea to our families left in the
50
north.
South Korean civic group members gathered at Ganghwa Island near the sea border west of Seoul and released 6 balloons toward North Korea.
A group of civic organizations packed hundreds of thousands of leaflets as well as cash into 5 large balloons. Millions of leaflets have been sent to the north over the years.
Each balloon carries envelopes that contain a message in either $1 US or 10 yuan bill. Some of the messages are reports about North Korea.
The balloons also contained North Korean cash for starving residents in the communist state. About a dozen civilians gathered at Injimgak in Paju near the border to prepare and send 100,000 leaflets with about $2,000 US worth of North Korean currency.
Group already sent 2 sets of 100,000 anti-North Korea leaflets into the north in October, and earlier this month the balloons carried 30,000 anti-North Korea leaflets. The protesters also prepared some $1 bills and underwear for North Korean residents, but did not send them to the north because the wind direction wasn't ideal.
The U.S. dropping leaflets over North Korea along their border. U.S. stealth bombers dropping leaflets over North Korea.
I think the helicopters just dropped all these little flyer things. What's that? I don't know.
CNN has obtained a copy of the leaflet that the B-2 stealth bombers are currently dropping on the city of Pyongyang.
The leaflets carried anti-North Korea messages.
What if instead of printed leaflets, dollar bills and pairs of underwear, something was dropped much more valuable, powerful, and useful? What if instead was dropped was a mobile device? For example, like a smartphone. Additionally to what is dropped, changing also increase the drop load by 100-fold.
The rough situation in Pyongyang is that there are about 1 million people who have mobile phones. They have a partnership with a company called Orascom. Those phones don't roam. They don't have internet access. They can't go out of the country. We tried, and I'm not sure if we were successful or not, to open it up a little bit.
A writer for the New York Times says most North Koreans don't have access to the internet or even a computer.
If Facebook could project weak but free internet to developing nations via Titan aerospace drones, it could then make a basic version of WhatsApp available to those users. They likely could send messages and view status updates even if they only had a weak, slow connection.
Well, but you might be able to convince them that it's in their interest to open up a little bit. And opening it up a little bit is the beginning of a process. And the reason you would open it up a little bit is that they need the internet for electronic commerce and for business. And they're certainly grappling with issues of food availability, education, social unrest, and so forth.
Google Translate is a free tool that enables you to translate sentences, documents, and even whole websites instantly. Our translation quality will vary by language and language pair.
The government of North Korea would most likely be pretty pissed, and if assuming this project had been funded and launched by either an individual, or instead, a private company, or a charitable organization, who then in such a case, could that regime possibly blame, let alone retaliate at all in any way?
But Slashgear reports the U.S. State Department was less than thrilled about the trip. A spokeswoman for the State Department said, "Frankly, we don't think the timing of this is particularly helpful, but they are private citizens and they are making their own decisions. They are not carrying any messages from us."
Drones to the rescue.
Look, since 2012, you've had commercial use of drones has been legally allowed, right? So a lot of different industries are trying to explore how to do this. But this is, when Amazon does something, it is big. I mean, it's estimated during the holidays, 3 million packages a day.
How about having your packages delivered to you in 30 minutes or less by a drone?
Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos says his research and development team are working on a drone.
Think about all the different ways. In agriculture, they're using drones to go out and find the dry spots in fields. You can save a fortune. Why not drop your package right? I mean, Santa does
the octocopter will be able to fly packages directly to your door.
What Google's trying to do, float air balloons that are remote controlled, solar powered, with wireless transmitters on top of them.
Internet balloons, though, are already being tested in places like rural New Zealand, where some residents, like this guy, have been unable to get reliable internet.
Well, what Titan Aerospace has is an unmanned aircraft system that can fly above 65,000 feet. Therefore, what they're going to use it for is to allow them to have communications with many different parts of the world.
Solar panels covering the craft's surface store enough energy to allow them to ascend to a position of 20 kilometers above sea level and stay aloft continuously for 5 years.
Say I want to send something to someone else. Well, you could use this horrifying contraption to come get it from you. This clawed drone could be used to swoop down.
We're essentially trying to fly a
communications tower in the sky. It needs to run 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, only on sunlight.
Well, the FAA only regulates up to about 60,000 feet. So these systems would be flying above that in the really the suborbital phase. So therefore, there wouldn't be any regulation. So the only difficulty would be, or the only thing that they have to contend with, is getting up to that altitude.
The balloons are positioned at a very, very high altitude, higher than airplanes fly even, at about 20 kilometers above the Earth. But how do they stop the balloons from, acting like balloons and floating away never to be seen again? Well, being Google balloons, they're also very smart and can access publicly available weather data to ensure that they're evenly spaced out. The balloons can know to adjust their altitude to catch or avoid certain currents accordingly, and it's so high above the Earth, wind patterns are predictable enough where this could be possible.
Back in May, a music festival in South Africa put drones to work. Using their cell phones, they could order beer, and it was brought right to their face. Students who got their textbooks from Zoocal in Australia can order them online, and then minutes later, a commercial drone company, Flirty, will deliver them to you.
This technology has been demonstrated back in 2010. DARPA, the Department of Defense, had worked on a program called Vulture that actually was to fly for 5 years at high altitudes.
The US Navy is working on 3D printed drones. Their public affairs office admits it's not quite ready, but it is not far off.
And this would allow them to have internet in countries that right now do not, and that's about 2/3 of the world.
Their goal, they said, to explain North Korea is doomed if the country doesn't embrace the web.
Once the internet starts, citizens in a country can certainly build on top of it. But the government has to do something. They have to make it possible for people to use the internet, which the government of North Korea has not yet done.
I happened to walk by this whiteboard in the hallway that had a balloon drawn on it that said, "Wi-Fi for the world." So I went over to Rich's desk and pointed at the drawing and said, "So, you know that's crazy, right?" And he basically said, "Well, prove it."